Captain Jake Harrison was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. He dropped his cup and ran to the main control room of Earth Defense Command. Red lights flashed everywhere and people were shouting orders. Something big was happening. "What's going on?" Jake asked as he reached his command chair. Lieutenant Amy Collins turned to face him. Her face was pale and worried. "Sir, we're getting a signal from deep space. It's not like anything we've seen before. The computer says it's coming from outside our galaxy." Jake sat down and looked at the big screen in front of him. Numbers and symbols were moving across it very fast. "Put it on the main display. Let's see who wants to talk to us." The screen flickered and then showed something that made everyone in the room go quiet. A tall, thin creature appeared in front of them. It had blue skin that seemed to glow softly. 6 long arms moved as it spoke. Its eyes were large and filled with something Jake had seen many times in war. "Fear. Please," the creature said. Its voice came through their translation machines, but Jake could hear the sadness in it. "I am Ambassador Zethkai of the Valerian Confederation. We need your help. Our people are dying." Jake leaned forward in his chair. He had heard of the Valerians before. They were an old race that lived far away among the stars. Most people said they were peaceful and very smart. They made beautiful art and had technology that could heal almost any wound. To see one of them begging for help was shocking. "Our worlds are being destroyed," Zethkai continued. "The Drakmor swarm is coming. They eat everything in their path. Entire star systems become empty and dead in just a few months. We have tried everything to stop them, but nothing works." Dr. Lisa Brooks stepped closer to the screen. She studied aliens for a living and had never seen a Valerian look so scared. "How many worlds have you lost?" she asked. 12 of our main planets are gone," Zethkai answered. "Billions of our people are dead. The Drakmor don't talk. They don't make deals. They just eat and eat until nothing is left." Commander Pete Williams came into the room. He was in charge of Earth's military planning. "What exactly are these Drakmor?" he asked. The screen changed to show huge bug-like creatures. They had hard shells like insects but were the size of buildings. Their mouths had rows and rows of sharp teeth. Their ships looked alive like giant animals floating through space. "They are not like other races," Zethkai explained. "They don't build machines. Everything they use is alive. Their ships heal themselves when damaged. When we hurt them with one weapon, they change so that weapon won't work anymore. They learn and adapt very quickly." Jake watched the images of destruction on the screen. Entire cities were being eaten by the creatures, forests disappeared in minutes, even the oceans were being drained dry. "How many are there?" Amy asked. "We don't know exactly. Maybe hundreds of millions, maybe billions. They spread across space, like a disease. Every world they take makes them stronger and gives them more soldiers." Pete looked at the tactical information flowing across his tablet. "What kind of technology do they have?" "Everything is biological. Their weapons are living, things that shoot acid or poison. Their armor grows back when broken. Their ships can repair themselves even during battle. The worst part is how fast they breed. One ship can become 100 ships in just a few weeks." Jake stood up and walked closer to the screen. "Why are you coming to us? There are older races out there with better technology than humans have." Zethkai was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was very soft. "Because other races think like us. They try to make peace. They try to defend their homes and wait for the attack to stop. But the Drakmor never stop. They just keep coming." "And humans?" Jake asked. "Humans are different. We have studied your history. Your species fights in ways that other races find disturbing. You don't just defend, you attack. You hunt your enemies. You don't stop until they are completely defeated." Dr. Brooks looked uncomfortable. "Are you asking us to commit genocide?" "I am asking you to save the galaxy," Zethkai replied. "The Drakmor have destroyed civilizations that were millions of years old. Races that had art and science beyond imagination are gone forever. If they are not stopped, they will eventually find Earth too." Jake thought about this. Humanity had only been traveling between stars for a few years. They were still considered newcomers by most alien races, but other aliens often seemed afraid of humans. Not because humans were stronger or smarter, but because humans fought differently. "What can you offer us in return?" Pete asked. "Everything," Zethkai said immediately. "Our technology, our knowledge of the galaxy, our star maps, our science, anything you want. We will give you access to technologies that could advance your civilization by thousands of years." Amy pulled up a map showing the Drakmor's path through space. "They're moving in this direction. If they keep going, they'll reach human space in about 5 years. Maybe less," Zethkai added. "They are moving faster now. Each world they take teaches them new things. They become more efficient at destruction." Jake looked around the room at his team. Everyone was thinking the same thing. This was bigger than anything humanity had ever faced. They were being asked to fight a war against creatures that had defeated every other race in the galaxy. "We need time to think about this," Jake said finally. "And we need more information. Can you send us everything you have about the Drakmor? Their biology, their tactics, their weaknesses?" "They have no weaknesses that we have found," Zethkai replied. "But yes, I will send you all our data. Please, Captain Harrison, you are our last hope. Every day you delay, more worlds die. More people are consumed." The transmission started to fade. Zethkai's image became unclear. "We will wait for your answer, but please hurry. Time is running out for all of us." The screen went black. The room was very quiet. Everyone was thinking about what they had just heard. Somewhere out in space, an army of monsters was eating its way across the galaxy, and they might be coming to Earth next. Jake sat back down in his chair. His coffee was cold now, and somehow that seemed like the least important thing in the universe. The meeting room in the United Earth Council building had never been so crowded. Representatives from every country on Earth sat around the huge table. Military leaders, scientists, and government officials filled every chair. They had been talking for almost 15 hours straight. General Roy Martinez stood up slowly. He was tired, but his voice was strong and clear. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have looked at all the information about the Drakmor threat. Our experts have studied everything the Valerians sent us. We know what we're dealing with." Admiral Susan Clark activated the wall screen. Images of the bug-like aliens appeared, along with charts and numbers. "The Drakmor are not like any enemy we've ever fought. They're not soldiers or even animals. They're more like a disease that spreads from world to world." Dr. Carl Johnson, the head of Earth's weapons research, pointed to the biological data. "These creatures adapt to whatever we use against them. If we shoot them with lasers, they develop thick skin that blocks lasers. If we use poison gas, they change so the gas doesn't hurt them anymore." Captain Ben Turner had just returned from a secret mission to Valerian space. He had seen the Drakmor with his own eyes. "I watched them attack a Valerian colony ship. The aliens tried to fight them the same way they would fight other aliens. They used standard military tactics. It didn't work." "What made it fail?" asked President Mary Lewis. "The Drakmor don't think like we do," Ben explained. "They don't have strategies or plans. They just attack everything that's alive. But that's also what makes them predictable. They always do the same thing. They always try to eat everything." Director Helen Price stood up next. She was in charge of Earth's space colonies and knew how to organize big projects. "If we decide to help the Valerians, this won't be a small operation. We're talking about the biggest military action in human history." The room became very quiet. Everyone understood what she meant. This would be bigger than any war Earth had ever fought. "How big?" asked the representative from Brazil. "We would need to build thousands of new spaceships," Helen continued. "We would need to train millions of soldiers. Every factory on Earth and in the colonies would have to start making weapons and equipment. This would change everything about how we live." General Martinez pulled up more charts. "We've done the math. To fight the Drakmor effectively, we need at least 10,000 combat ships. We need 50 million people in the military. We need new weapons that have never been built before." "That's impossible," said the representative from India. "No country has ever mobilized that many resources." "No country," Admiral Clark replied. "But all of Earth working together? We can do it. Colonel Dan Foster presented the timeline. The plan is aggressive, but it can work. In 6 months, we convert every shipyard to military production. Cargo ships become troop carriers. Passenger ships get weapons installed. Mining equipment gets turned into military hardware. Dr. Johnson activated another display. We've already started designing new weapons. The Drakmor adapt to direct attacks, so we're developing indirect methods. Biological weapons that target their specific biology. Electromagnetic weapons that disrupt their nervous systems. Nanobots that eat the same materials they use to build their ships. Ambassador Zethkai appeared on the main screen via long-distance communication. He had been listening to the entire discussion. "This is remarkable," he said. "Most civilizations take years to decide whether to go to war. You are planning the largest military operation in galactic history in less than a day." "That's because we understand what we're fighting," General Martinez replied. "The Drakmor aren't an army. They're not even intelligent in the way we understand intelligence. They're a force of nature. And humans have been fighting forces of nature since we lived in caves." The president stood up. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly. You're proposing that Earth commit our entire civilization to a war against aliens that have been unstoppable for over 100 years. "Yes, ma'am," the general replied. "And you believe we can win?" "Yes, ma'am. But only if we fight them our way. Not the way other aliens have tried to fight them." The room was silent for several minutes. Finally, the president spoke again. "What makes you so confident?" Admiral Clark answered. "Every other species that fought the Drakmor tried to be civilized about it. They tried to minimize casualties. They tried to protect their territory while being careful not to cause too much damage. They fought defensively. And humans would fight differently? Humans would fight to exterminate them," Colonel Foster said bluntly. "We wouldn't try to drive them away or contain them. We would hunt them down and kill every single one of them." Ambassador Zethkai looked uncomfortable. Such methods are considered extreme by most galactic civilizations. "Most galactic civilizations are dead or dying," General Martinez pointed out. "Maybe it's time to try extreme methods." The debate continued for several more hours. Representatives asked about costs, casualties, and consequences. Scientists explained the technical challenges. Military leaders outlined the tactical approaches. Finally, the president called for a vote. "All in favor of committing Earth to full military action against the Drakmor threat?" Hands went up around the room. First a few, then more, then almost everyone. When the count was finished, the decision was unanimous. Earth would go to war. "How long before we can launch our first attack?" asked the president. 8 months, Admiral Clark replied. "Maybe 7 if everything goes perfectly." Ambassador Zethkai looked amazed. "Other species have taken decades to mount such operations." General Martinez smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "Other species haven't spent their entire history learning how to kill things that are trying to kill them. Earth is a dangerous planet. It made us into dangerous people. The Drakmor are about to find out just how dangerous we can be." The meeting ended with the signing of the Terran Defense Compact. For the first time in human history, every nation on Earth agreed to work together toward a single goal. That goal was simple: find the Drakmor and destroy them completely. As the representatives left the building, Admiral Clark approached General Martinez. "Roy, I hope we're making the right choice. We're betting our entire species on this." Martinez looked out the window at the busy city below. Soon, all of this would change. Every person down there would be part of the war effort. "Susan, the Drakmor have been spreading across the galaxy for over a century. Every race that tried to stop them failed because they fought like civilized beings. Maybe it's time to fight like humans." 6 months after the decision, Earth looked completely different. Every major city buzzed with activity day and night. Factories that once made cars now built spaceship parts. Companies that made computers started producing weapons. The entire planet had become one giant war machine. Commander Kate Phillips stood on the observation deck of the Mars Orbital Facility, watching as another converted cargo ship received its new weapons. Below her, hundreds of workers moved like ants, installing gun turrets and armor plating on what used to be a simple freight hauler. Amazing what humans can do when they're motivated, said her assistant, Lieutenant Gary Miller. Kate nodded. 6 months ago, that ship carried food between colonies. Now it can destroy a small city. The Valerians are right about us. We really are different from other races. The training camps on Earth were just as busy. Camp Henderson in Nevada had grown from a small base to a massive complex that could train 500,000 soldiers at the same time. Drill Sergeant Alex Murphy walked between rows of new recruits, shouting instructions. "Listen up," Murphy yelled. "The enemy we're fighting isn't like anything you've seen in movies or video games. The Drakmor don't surrender. They don't retreat. They don't get scared. They just keep coming until you kill them, or they kill you." The recruits were a mix of volunteers and drafted civilians. Some had never held a weapon before. Others were veterans from Earth's small conflicts. All of them were learning to fight as a team. "The key to beating swarms," Murphy continued, "is not to fight them one by one. You move together, shoot together, think together. Individual heroes get eaten, teams survive." Meanwhile, in research facilities around the world, scientists worked around the clock developing new weapons. Dr. Nancy Wright's laboratory in Colorado had become the most important place on Earth. Her team studied every piece of Drakmor biology the Valerians had provided. "Look at this," Dr. Wright said to her team, pointing at a microscopic image on the screen. "The Drakmor nervous system is completely different from anything else we know. It's like a biological computer network, but that gives us options." Her team had developed 3 new types of weapons in the past month. The first was a biological virus designed specifically to attack Drakmor cells. The second was an electromagnetic pulse that could disrupt their nervous systems. The third was the most controversial. "Nanobots?" asked Dr. Robert Kim, looking at the tiny machines under a microscope. "Self-replicating nanobots," Dr. Wright corrected. "They're programmed to consume the same organic materials the Drakmor use for their ships. Once released, they'll spread and multiply until there's nothing left to eat." "That sounds dangerous for other life forms too," Dr. Kim said. "It is, but it's also our best weapon against an enemy that adapts to everything else." The first test of human preparedness came sooner than expected. Captain Steve Adams was commanding a patrol near the edge of human space when his sensors detected something moving toward them from deep space. 3 ships, biological design, definitely not human or any known friendly species, reported his sensor operator, Lieutenant Monica Harris. Steve looked at the tactical display. The ships matched the Drakmor descriptions perfectly. "Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Contact Fleet Command and tell them we have Drakmor contact." The battle that followed would later be called the Battle of Proxima Station. It lasted 6 hours and changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. The Drakmor ships attacked exactly as the Valerians had described. They charged straight at the human vessels, trying to overwhelm them with superior numbers and adaptation abilities. But the humans didn't fight the way other species had. "Fire biological weapons first," Steve ordered. "Wait for them to start adapting, then switch to electromagnetic pulse." The first Drakmor ship began changing its outer skin to resist the biological attack. As soon as the sensors detected this change, the human ships switched to completely different weapons. "They're trying to adapt to the EM pulse now," reported Lieutenant Harris. "Switch to kinetic weapons. Hit them with solid projectiles while their systems are confused." Captain Tony Rivera, commanding a squadron of fast attack ships, used tactics that no other species had ever tried. Instead of staying far away and shooting, his ships moved close to the Drakmor vessels. "Sir, we're almost close enough for them to ram us," his pilot warned. "That's the idea," Tony replied. "At this range, they can't adapt fast enough to our weapons changes." The human ships switched weapons every few minutes. Plasma cannons, railguns, biological agents, electromagnetic pulses, and finally, kinetic projectiles. The Drakmor ships couldn't keep up with the rapid changes. The most shocking moment came when one Drakmor ship, badly damaged, tried to ram a human vessel. Instead of running away, the human ship moved even closer and used its point defense, weapons to systematically destroy the bioship piece by piece. Ambassador Zethkai watched the battle from a safe distance. He had never seen anything like it. "They're not just fighting the Drakmor," he reported to his government. They're dissecting them while they're still alive. When the battle ended, all 3 Drakmor ships were destroyed. Not a single human vessel was lost. More importantly, the humans had captured enough biological samples to improve their weapons even further. Battle report, Steve said as his crew examined the wreckage. The Drakmor adapted to each weapon we used, but they couldn't adapt fast enough when we kept changing tactics. Lieutenant Harris reported. Their biology is amazing, but it takes time to modify. We didn't give them that time. News of the victory spread quickly through human space and to allied species. For the first time in over a century, someone had not just survived a Drakmor attack but had completely destroyed the attackers. Dr. Wright received the battle samples within days and made new discoveries. The Drakmor are even more vulnerable than we thought, she told the military leaders. They're so focused on adaptation that rapid tactical changes confuse their entire system. General Martinez reviewed the battle data with satisfaction. The other species in this galaxy have been trying to fight the Drakmor like they're a military force. We're fighting them like they're a pest problem that needs to be exterminated. That's the difference. The victory at Proxima Station proved that human tactics worked. More importantly, it showed that the Drakmor could be not just defeated, but completely destroyed. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans decided something needed to die. 3 months after the victory at Proxima Station, the largest fleet in human history left Earth's solar system. 12,000 ships of every size and type moved through space like a metal storm. At the front of this massive armada, Fleet Admiral Jack Porter stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Devastator. All ships report ready for jump to enemy territory, reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Brown. Jack looked out at the endless sea of human warships. Converted cargo vessels flew next to purpose-built destroyers. Fast attack ships darted between massive carrier vessels. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Send this message to all ships," Jack commanded. For 100 years, the Drakmor have spread fear across the galaxy. Today we show them what real fear looks like. The fleet jumped to hyperspace and headed straight into Drakmor-controlled territory. Their target was the Kepler 442 system, where the aliens had built what other species considered an unbeatable fortress. The human approach to this fortress was simple. They weren't going to attack it. They were going to poison it. Commander Lisa. Price led the first assault group. Her ships carried the new biological weapons Dr. Wright had developed. As they approached the system, Lisa gave her final orders to the fleet. "Remember, we're not trying to capture anything. We're not trying to negotiate. We're here to make sure nothing in this system can ever threaten anyone again." The attack began with the release of engineered viruses into the system's atmosphere. These viruses were designed to eat the organic compounds the Drakmor used for everything. At the same time, clouds of nanobots spread through space, consuming any biological material they encountered. "It's working," reported Captain Frank Wilson from his science vessel. "The Drakmor installations are literally dissolving. Their ships are falling apart." Valerian Admiral Yethmore watched the battle from a safe distance. He had been assigned to observe human tactics and report back to his government. What he saw disturbed him. "This isn't a battle," he reported to his superiors. "This is systematic extermination. The humans aren't fighting the Drakmor, they're sterilizing the entire system." The Kepler 442 operation eliminated over 50 million Drakmor in less than 3 days. But more importantly, it showed that human warfare was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Billy Grant pioneered new psychological warfare tactics during the next assault. His stealth ships would sneak into Drakmor formations and identify their command creatures. Then they would kill only the leaders, leaving the rest of the swarm confused and helpless. "The Drakmor work like a hive," Billy explained to his pilots. "Kill the queen bee and the workers don't know what to do. Other species never figured this out because they kept trying to fight the whole hive at once." His tactics proved devastatingly effective. At the Vega Prime system, human forces destroyed a massive Drakmor fleet by eliminating just 12 command organisms. The remaining millions of creatures simply drifted in space, unable to function without their leaders. The success continued at Wolf 359 and the Centauri cluster. In each battle, Human forces used tactics that were not just militarily effective, but psychologically crushing to the Drakmor. Dr. Andy Walsh, a scientist serving with the fleet, made an important discovery during these battles. The Drakmor have never encountered an enemy that actively hunts them. Every other species fought defensively, trying to protect their territory. Humans are seeking out Drakmor wherever they exist and destroying them. This hunting behavior had unexpected results. For the first time in recorded history, Drakmor forces began retreating from systems they had already conquered. They were displaying what could only be described as fear. The largest battle of the campaign took place at the Rigel system. Intelligence reports indicated this was the biggest Drakmor concentration in known space. The human response was coordinated across 17 different attack directions at the same time. General Kelly Thompson commanded the ground assault on Rigel 4. Her approach shocked even experienced human soldiers. She didn't just attack the Drakmor forces. She systematically destroyed the planet's ability to support any life at all. "We're not trying to capture this world," she explained to her officers. "We're making sure the Drakmor can never use it again. If that means the planet becomes uninhabitable for a few hundred years, that's acceptable." Thompson's forces used orbital bombardment, biological weapons, and what she called environmental warfare. They poisoned the water, burned the forests, and even changed the atmosphere's composition. Within 2 weeks, Rigel 4 was a dead world. "General, don't you think this is extreme?" asked one of her subordinates, Major Chris Lee. "Major, we're fighting a species that eats entire civilizations. Extreme is exactly what we need to be." The Rigel campaign eliminated nearly 2 billion Drakmor organisms, but the psychological impact was even greater. Drakmor forces throughout the galaxy began abandoning systems without being attacked, apparently expecting human forces to arrive. Captain Emma Davis, commanding a reconnaissance ship, reported strange behavior from the aliens. "Sir, we're detecting Drakmor evacuations from 12 systems that we haven't even targeted yet. They're running away before we get there." Admiral Porter studied the reports with satisfaction. "Good. Fear is a weapon too. Let them run. We'll catch them eventually." The offensive campaign lasted 6 months and freed over 200 star systems from Drakmor control. Human forces had eliminated an estimated 10 billion alien organisms while losing fewer than 50,000 of their own people. But the most significant result wasn't the military victory. It was the fundamental change in how the galaxy viewed warfare. Other species had always tried to minimize destruction and preserve life whenever possible. Humans had shown that sometimes the only way to preserve life was to completely destroy the things that threatened it. Lieutenant Colonel Mark Taylor, analyzing the campaign results, made an observation that would define human military doctrine for generations. "We didn't just defeat the Drakmor in these battles. We taught them that biological life, when properly motivated, is far more dangerous than they ever imagined." The offensive phase ended with human forces controlling a significant portion of what had once been Drakmor territory. More importantly, they had learned exactly how to fight these creatures effectively. The aliens that had terrorized the galaxy for over a century were now the ones being terrorized. As Admiral Porter prepared for the final phase of the war, he sent a message to Earth Command. "The Drakmor are no longer expanding. They're contracting. They're afraid of us now. It's time to finish this once and for all." The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what humanity would do next. Commander Joe Martinez had been hunting through space for 3 months, following clues that most people would have missed. His intelligence ship moved quietly through the dark regions between stars, searching for something that had been hidden for thousands of years. "Sir, I think we found it," said his sensor operator, Lieutenant Kelly Barnes. "There's a massive energy signature coming from that star system. It doesn't match anything in our databases." Joe looked at the readings on his screen. The system ahead of them was generating more biological energy than should be possible. That's it. That's the Drakmor homeworld. The discovery changed everything. Within days, every human military leader was studying the intelligence reports. The Drakmor homeworld wasn't just their original planet. It was the source of their power, their command center, and their main breeding facility all in one place. If we destroy this world, explained Dr. Michelle Foster to the War Council, we don't just hurt them, we cut off their ability to adapt and coordinate. It would be like cutting the brain out of their entire species. Admiral Sarah Johnson was chosen to lead the final assault. She stood before the largest human fleet ever assembled and gave them their orders. We're not just conquering this world, we're ending the Drakmor threat forever. There will be nothing left when we're finished. The fleet that approached the Drakmor homeworld was different from anything used in previous battles. These ships carried planet-killing weapons that pushed the limits of what other species considered acceptable warfare. Beginning orbital bombardment, reported Captain Eddie Brown as his dreadnought took position above the alien world, all weapons firing. The attack on the Drakmor homeworld was unlike any battle in galactic history. Human ships didn't try to land troops or capture territory. They simply began the systematic destruction of all life on the planet's surface. First came the biological weapons. Clouds of engineered viruses spread across continents, designed to destroy every form of organic life they encountered. The viruses were so effective that forests died in minutes and oceans began turning into lifeless soup. The entire planet is changing color, reported Lieutenant Sandra White from her observation post. The green and blue areas are turning brown and gray. Nothing is surviving the biological attack. But the biological weapons were just the beginning. Human ships established a bombardment pattern that would continue for months. Massive kinetic weapons fell from orbit like metal rain, reshaping the planet's surface. Energy weapons carved new canyons and melted mountain ranges. Captain Martin Clark, commanding a bombardment group, watched through his ship's cameras as entire continents were redesigned by human firepower. This isn't war anymore. This is planetary surgery. We're cutting out a cancer. The psychological effect on Drakmor throughout the galaxy was immediate and devastating. Within weeks of the homeworld assault beginning, human scouts reported strange behavior from Drakmor forces everywhere. They're killing themselves, reported Captain Jennifer Ross from the Tau Ceti system. Entire Drakmor fleets are just stopping in space and dying. We're not even attacking them, but they're giving up. Dr. Tim Rogers, studying captured Drakmor specimens, discovered why this was happening. Without their connection to the homeworld, individual Drakmor lose their group intelligence. They're becoming like animals, simple, mindless animals that can't function without their hive mind. The effect spread across the galaxy faster than human ships could travel. Drakmor that had been intelligent, adaptive killing machines became confused creatures that couldn't even feed themselves properly. It's over, Admiral Johnson reported to Earth Command 6 months after the homeworld assault began. Organized Drakmor resistance has ceased to exist. There are scattered individuals, still alive throughout the galaxy, but they're no more dangerous than any other wild animal. The war's end came not with a surrender or peace treaty, but with the simple fact that there were no more Drakmor capable of fighting an organized war. The aftermath changed galactic civilization in ways no one had expected. The Valerian Confederation, grateful for their survival, offered humanity a place in the Galactic Council with special authority over all military matters. Ambassador Zeth Kai spoke for many species when he addressed the new Galactic Defense Committee. When we asked humanity for help, we expected soldiers. What we received was something we had never imagined. We received protectors who were willing to do things we could never do ourselves. President Mary Lewis spoke for Earth at the Victory celebration held on the Valerian capital world. Representatives from dozens of species had gathered to honor the humans who had saved them all. The Drakmor taught the galaxy that some threats cannot be reasoned with or contained. President Lewis said, they can only be eliminated. Humanity is prepared to serve as the galaxy's guardians against such threats, not because we enjoy destruction, but because we're willing to do what's necessary to protect innocent life. The new arrangement was called the Terran Protective Alliance. Earth became the primary military power in the galaxy, while other species contributed their knowledge of science, art, and culture. It was the most successful interstellar government in known history. Years later, historians from many worlds would debate whether humanity's actions were heroic or horrifying. But no one could argue with the results. For the first time in galactic, memory-intelligent species could grow and develop without fear of extinction. The Drakmor had spent a century teaching the galaxy that survival meant accepting defeat. Humanity had spent 18 months teaching them something different. Sometimes survival meant becoming more dangerous than the things that threatened you. General Roy Martinez, now retired, sat in his garden on Earth and read reports from across the galaxy. New colonies were being established. Art and science were flourishing. Trade between species had increased dramatically, all because humanity had been willing to do what other species could not. "We didn't just win a war," he told his wife as they watched ships launch peacefully from the nearby spaceport. "We won the right for civilization to exist. The galaxy was safe, and it would remain safe as long as humanity was willing to be its guardian." The Drakmor were gone, but the lesson they had taught remained. In a universe full of dangers, sometimes the most civilized thing you could do was to be utterly ruthless in protecting civilization itself. Peace had been purchased with overwhelming force, and everyone agreed it was worth the price.